this is the first category. These are going to be pretty easy. But before we start, this is maybe the hardest part for some people, finding this number right here. What do you put in front of x if you're writing the equation and you already know the period, but you don't want to know what number to put right here, okay? So if we look right here, we usually say 2 pi over the number in front of x to find the period of the graph if we already have the equation. And then I cross multiplied, I multiplied both sides by c, and I got this. And then I divided by the period to show you this. If you say 2 pi over the period that you can see, it will give you the number to put in front of x. So you know how if you have an equation, you say 2 pi over c to discover the period. If you can already see the period, say 2 pi over the period to find out what number to put in there. So let's start there. This is a cosine graph, they said. So cosine, it looks like it starts at 0, and this one looks like it ends at 2 pi. Okay, so I'm going to say 2 pi over 2 pi and put a 1 right there. It looks like that this is going up to 4 as the midline, and then it looks like it's going up and down 1, but it's flipped over. So we can try that. I feel pretty good about that, so we can submit the answer. All right, now as the periods get harder, let's see what to do about this. All right, first of all, let's get our midline. The midline just really appears to be 0 right now. And the amplitude 4 or negative 4, we'll fix that in a minute. We're looking for a cosine wave in here. And we can see it's got a high frequency. This first cosine wave, so I'm looking for where a cosine wave starts and stops, the one that I'm trying to get. So it goes from 0 all the way to 12 pi, high to high, 12 pi. Okay, so well, all you have to do is say 2 pi over 12 pi. 2 pi over 12 pi. Now, yeah, that would reduce to just 1 over 6. But let's see if it'll just take it, because that's literally what it would do. But you could change it to 1 over 6. Let's see if that'll work. All right, and then it doesn't look like it's flipped over or anything. So let's see how it looks. Looks like it grows to be the right thing. And again, you could have put 1 over 6 there. It's fine if you cancel everything out. So it's better to write it like this, but it was just interesting to do it that way. So once again, look at the period. All right, this one's a cosine graph. We right now don't have any phase shift we're worrying about. This one looks like it's been moved up 2 and going up and down 1. And the period looks like, again, with no phase shift, it goes from 0 to 10 pi. So I can say 2 pi over 10 pi. You'd be better to say 1 over 5, but you can say that. And it doesn't look flipped over, so we can give it a try and then submit. Right, and then the other one, let's do this one. This is the hardest. So let's see. Or maybe this is the one I wanted to. Okay, that's the one I wanted to do before I do the other one. Okay, so I've got to do a phase shift. They want me to do a sine graph. So I'm looking in here for a sine graph. And it looks like it starts up here at 3. All right, and it looks like that the sine lasts from 3 to 15. That's 12 units. So I'm going to say 2 pi over 12. So if you know the period, you say 2 pi over how long it lasts. This lasts from 3 to 15. All right, it looks like it's been moved up 3, and it looks like it's going up and down 2. It looks like a positive sine wave I'm trying to write that starts over here at 3. So let's try it. Looks good. And so try some of those. Let's do one more. Let's keep practicing. All right. So this one wants a cosine graph again, a cosine graph. So I'm going to look at from any high to high. Let's start at 2 pi. I just see this one right here starting up from 2 pi, and it lasts until 6 pi. So 2 pi to 6 pi is 4 pi. So I'm going to go 2 pi over 4 pi. Better to call it 1/2, but I'm just trying to be very literal so you see it. Looks like the midline is 1, and we're going up and down 2. And the phase shift, this cosine starts over at 2 pi. So I'm going to say minus 2 pi. So what I'm looking at is where the cosine wave starts up, right here. All right, let's see, I'll leave the multiple choice for you, and then let's do this one. All right, so what I've got to think about is this is going, like the amplitude's 12, and I'm starting up at 3. So I got to go pretty far. I've got to at least go to 15, so let's count by 3s. And then label your x-axis with the end of the period, which we'll talk about in just a minute. All right, so the period is 2 pi over 2, so the period is pi. So I'll click done. And this is the key. You've got to make sure that you count out the right amount, which is pi. But you're not going to start from 0. You're going to start from negative pi over 2. So it might be good to kind of write some of this down. I'm starting back at negative pi over 2. And if you take the period and divide it by 4, you're counting by pi over 4s. So let's see if I can type that down. My phase shift is negative pi over 2. And the period of this is 2 pi over 2 is pi. All right, so period is 2 pi over 2, so it's pi. So I'm going to count by pi over 4s, but I'm going to start from negative pi over 2. My phase shift is negative pi over 2. So now I think about what we did in class. So I'm going to start at my phase shift, negative pi over 2, which I'm going to make that negative 2 pi over 4 to get a common denominator. And then I'm going to add pi over 4. So all I'm doing is trying to get started between these two. I'm going from negative pi over 2, and I'm adding pi over 4. So I got a common denominator. So what I want to do is think of myself as counting by pi over 4s. And I'm going to start at negative 2 pi over 4. And I'll worry about where I'm going to put this later. Well, let's do that now. So let's say this is negative 2 pi over 4 right here. All right, so right here, because I just went back 2 of them, I'm going to count by pi over 4s. Negative 2 pi over 4 plus pi over 4 is pi over 4, plus pi over 4 is 0, plus pi over 4 is pi over 4, plus another pi over 4 is 2 pi over 4. So that should be the end. Now, the beginning is going to be, let's see, it's a sine graph. Right, so I'm going to be right on the line 3. I'm going to start here at 3. Then I'm going to go up 12. 3 plus 12 is 15. Back to the middle. And then I'm going to go down 12 to negative 9. And then I'm going to go back up here. I don't know for sure if it's going to, well, we'll just try and see if it takes it. All right, so let's think about it for a minute. It's going up and down. And I was wanting to start at negative pi over 4, so I just called it that. And I think it doesn't like that dot that I put there. So let's try 3. We won't do it all again. The period's 2 pi over 2, which is pi. Done. going to count, I'm moving back pi over 2, but I'm counting by pi over 4s. So I'm going to go, oops. All right, so I'm going to put my dots. Let's see, move the x scale in place. So I've got to make sure that's at pi. So it says pi over 4, 2 pi over 4, 3 pi over 4, 4 pi over 4, 2 pi over 4, 3 pi over 4, 4 pi over 4. So this actually has to be right here. Let's see if I can get rid of it. I don't know why it's not letting me move it, so let me reset it, sorry. 3 pi. Done. And then once I put it there, so pi over 4, 2 pi over 4, 3 pi over 4, 4 pi over 4. So leave that there, and then graph your points. So I'm starting at 3, because it's moved up 3. From there, I go up 12 to 15, back to 3, down 12 to -9, and back to 3. And there's my sine wave. Now what I've done is I've gone back, easy right, I've gone back to negative pi over 2, and I counted by pi over 4s. So this is negative 2 pi over 4, negative pi over 4, 0, pi over 4, pi over 2. All right, so let's do another one. Okay, so we have a cosine that's really big. So I'm going to count by tens because I got to get to 20s and 70s and stuff. Now, my if you say 2 pi over 1/2, 1/4, you get 8 pi. Okay, but it doesn't mean I know yet where I'm going to put 8 pi. So let's take our equation over here and talk about it. All right, so we got our amplitude of 50. We'll come back to that. We have the period of 2 pi over 1/4. So we know the period is 2 pi over 1/4. 2 pi over 1/4 will be times 4. So we know the period is 8 pi. And so we're going to count by 8 pi over 4, so we're going to count by 2 pi. We have a phase shift of 4 pi, so because that's the part in the parentheses with x. And so I'm going to take 4 pi, but I'm going to count by 2 pi's. And I got to make sure I put 8 pi in the exact right place. So I'm going to move to the right 4 pi and count by 2 pi's. So let's see, let's think ahead on that. So I've got to start at 4 pi and count by 2 pi's. So let's think of our axis is marked off by 2 pi's. So this will be 2 pi, 4 pi, 6 pi, 8 pi. All right, so 2 pi, 4 pi, 6 pi, 8 pi. But we're going to start at 4 pi with our phase shift. I've got to go down 20. So if it was sine, I would put my dot right here. This is 2 pi, 4 pi. I put my dot right here. But that's really my midline. It's cosine, so I'm going to go up 50 from that and put it at 30. All right, so remember this is 2 pi, 4 pi, which is my phase shift. And then I've got to go back middle to -20. And then I've got to go low to -70, back to the middle, and then up high again. Now if you look, I do have a period of 2 pi over 1/4, 8 pi, because here, the way I've marked it, 2 pi, 4 pi, 6 pi, 8 pi. This goes from 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. So it goes from 4 to 12, which is a period of 8 pi.